a more significant return to normality from November. People will be able to have as normal a Christmas as possible.
Easter can be the new Christmas.
We can turn the tide within the next 12 weeks, and I'm absolutely confident that we can send a coronavirus packing in this country. We will keep these restrictions under constant review. We will look again in 3 weeks and relax them if the evidence shows we are able to.
The government has decided that the current measures must remain in place for at least the next 3 weeks.
We cannot recommend that the easing of the national lockdown, set to take place on the 4th of July, happens in Leicester.
It is my strong and sincere hope that we will be able to review the outstanding restrictions and allow a more significant return to normality from November at the earliest, possibly in time for Christmas. On Saturday, the 1st of August, you'll remember we had hoped to reopen in England a number of the higher risk settings that had remained closed. And today, I'm afraid we're postponing those changes for at least a fortnight. But unless we palpably make progress, we should assume that the restrictions I have announced will remain in place for perhaps 6 months.
If we all pull together as we did during the peak of the virus, we'll get through this. I'm very confident about that. We'll get to Christmas, not in a national lockdown, but with the economy, with schools open.
Everything we can to make sure that Christmas for everybody is as normal as possible.
So on Christmas Day, those families could perhaps use common sense.
We're going to do everything we can to make Christmas as normal as possible. What you've got to do is realise that this is a pandemic in which people need to understand that there is hope. And there is hope. If you ask me, do I think things can be significantly different by Christmas? Yes, I do. I believe that these technical developments taken together will enable us to defeat the virus by the spring, as humanity has defeated every other infectious disease, and I'm not alone in this optimism. I've no doubt that people will be able to have as normal a Christmas as possible. You'll be able to form a Christmas bubble with up to 2 other households. Families will be able to reunite. We don't want to, as I say, to ban Christmas, to cancel it, and I think that would be frankly inhuman.
And we can meet up in the spring. Easter can be the new Christmas for some people.
We'll introduce new restrictions in the most affected areas, specifically those parts of London, the South East and the East of England. These areas will enter a new Tier 4, which will be broadly equivalent to the national restrictions which were in place in England in November. It's clear that we need to do more together to bring this new variant under control in England. We must therefore go into a national lockdown. Then I hope we can steadily move out of lockdown, reopening schools after the February half term.
In sort of late spring, early summer, I really think it will be possible to return to life much closer to normal. It won't be entirely normal initially, but we will be able to come out of the lockdown and start living life again in the way that we once did.
We're setting out on what I hope and believe is a one-way road to freedom. The end really is in sight, Mr. Speaker, and a wretched year will give way to a spring and a summer that will be very different and incomparably better than the picture we see around us today. We can really look at that June 21st date with some optimism. I think that's how I'd put it. That I'm very optimistic that we'll be able to get there.